Okay, this is another video. I've been asked for by some guys to show my settings for my Panadapter attached to my ICOM 7410. Yeah, hang on just a minute. I'm having to hold the camera. I don't have a tripod. Move the mouse and find stations here. We'll find that station there, and people have also asked me how it works, so let's see if we can go over here and click on this one. Of course they quit talking right when I dial it in. Basically click and you go to the frequency that somebody's actually on instead of dialing around whatever. Anyway, let's click off where nobody's at. That clicking sound you're hearing is my step IR, by the way, if you're hearing that at all through the camera. Let's go over here to the sound card, and that's my settings. Yours may be different. Okay, cancel. Look at the bandwidth. I have 8,000. I don't know if you can see that with the camera. Sorry if it's jiggling a little bit. And 1028571, and that's the way I've left it for a year. Don't ask me exactly what that does, because I could not tell you. I'm sorry. I played around with these settings for quite some time before I finally got them right. Okay, then let's look at the options, and I'm just going to go through these and hopefully you can see. What I have set here. Most of these are basically set up for your own tuning in and making things work right. I think that's a critical thing right there. Swap I and Q, and miscellaneous options, and mouse wheel. I don't think I've even touched that one. The RF front end calibration, I just clicked on that, and this is the way I have mine set up, and it's been working great for a year. Okay, the SDR on IF output, which is controlled by Ham Radio Deluxe. Sync mode, full sync in both directions. The frequency I typed in there. Well, that's actually just following. Yeah, never mind. And the IF frequency of the first IF is 64 megahertz, 64555. The global offset that I dialed in there, that again I had to play around to get that. I have not changed it since. Working great. The additional offset per mode, if you'll notice, the lower sideband is 2525, and for CW is 650. Again, these have been working great for me, and once things get working good for me, I usually don't play around with it much, so I haven't even really been inside these settings to look at them lately. So we're going to click out of that. RF front end frequency options and calibrations. Sorry if the video is jiggly. Doing the best I can here. Set options, and then recording settings and scheduler. I don't know if you can see that. That's just something that's really not that important either, but that's how it's set up on mine. Okay, cancel. Go back to options, and DDR. This is what you use to make it talk to Ham Radio Deluxe, where it will. Ham Radio Deluxe controls the radio, and HDSDR, this version, controls Ham Radio Deluxe. And if you click on the HRD, it'll do just that. And when it's working correctly, you'll get the little green connection OK smiley face right there. So anyway, and let's see, go back to options. I think that's getting close to the end of what we need to look at. There's cat to rig, cat to omni rig. I don't believe that has to work in this scenario, but that's what my settings are. As you can see, sync to rig is inactive. So, alright, and cat to HDSDR is COM6 on mine, at 9600 baud, and cat only. So, inactivated. I've got mute on my receive for this dongle. Only because I use the audio on my radio. I'm only using the dongle for the Panadapter part. That's all I really care about. Though it does receive pretty good for what little bit of receiver it has in it. Anyway, I just keep that muted. And also, folks have been talking about or asking about the cable on the buffer, between the buffer board and the first IF. I was told by Jack to make that as short as possible. I started out with like, I don't know, 12 or more inches, and had the buffer board mounted nicely up farther inside the radio. Well, nothing was showing up much for weak signals on the Panadapter. In other words, like this signal right here wouldn't be there where it should have been, because I was losing the signal in that long wire between the first IF and the buffer board. I had to, for it to finally get to where it actually showed up on my meter, or didn't show up on my meter is really the case, where I could just hear the audio coming through the radio and actually see something coming on the Panadapter. I had to cut that cable down to 1.5 inches. 2 inches was pretty good, but I had another 1/2 inch I could trim off before I could not actually get the Panadapter or the buffer board to fit in there correctly, and that worked good. So, but if you don't do weak signal communications like on 6 meters, or you have no noise floor to hinder you, it doesn't matter. But I like to look for those weak signals that I have a no noise floor here sometimes on 6 meters. I can just barely hear a signal with nothing on the S meter, but I want to see that show up on the Panadapter so I don't have to dial across the band to find it. I hope that comes across there as understood. But again, if you don't do weak signal work, nothing to worry about, because it was working fine even with the long cable for showing up on the Panadapter. Alright, I'm going to post this on YouTube. Hope that settles some questions for you guys. Also, there's another thing here on the RF gain. Most frequencies, basically 10 and below, I run that at about 20 to 30 and as far as the settings concerned. Now on my weak signal work on 6 meters where I have no noise floor, I'll run that all the way up to 50, so I can see those weak signals that I can just barely hear on 6 meters. So alright, hope that helps some guys out. I know these settings right here took me quite some time to figure out on my own, so I'm just going to show those again. And for you guys who haven't tried this, don't be afraid to try it. It's really cheap, and hey, all you gotta, if you don't like it, pull the cable out, pull the buffer board out. This thing, the ICOM, looks brand new again. Nobody ever know the difference. But if you get it working, you'll fall in love with your radio all over again. All right, 7.3s everybody. AK4QR, Sean Phillips. We're out.